We got a brand new summer theme in NBA 2K Mobile featuring 24 players that have been added to this theme. All right, so we're going to start with the point guard position that is officially 6 inside this theme. It is being showcased by Plazma Quartz Damian Lillard. So you know this is one of my favorite players, so I'm excited about this card. But there are some new faces in this theme, and there's some gems. We're going to highlight all that right now. Let's get into the stats. So I threw this on the screen here. That way you can follow along and get an idea of what the best point guard you want to use based on your play style. So if you like to get those shots created off the dribble, the best players for that would be Damian Lillard, Steve Nash, and Nick Van Exel. Nick Van Exel is one of those gems I was talking about. Now, if you want a point guard that is explosive, like a Derrick Rose, for layups and dunks, the best point guard is going to be Baron Davis because he has a 5 in that stat. For mid-range shooting, luckily, most of these point guards have a 5 in that stat. The only one that doesn't is Lonzo, who has a 4. For three-point shot, there's a couple of players that have a 5 in that stat. That's Damian Lillard, Steve Nash, Nick Van Exel, and Lonzo Ball. So Lonzo Ball makes up for that 4 in mid-range. Now, I gotta admit, Damian Lillard's 5 in three-point shot really feels like a 6. Him and Stephen Curry are just automatic. They're the best three-point shooters inside this game. For post scoring, that's not a stat that you really care about for your point guard. But if you do want to post up with your point guard, the best ones for that is going to be Michael Cooper, Baron Davis, and Lonzo Ball. As far as agility, most of these players have a 5. The only one that doesn't is Michael Cooper with a 4. Now, your strongest point guards, the one that can take the most contact, and basically the ones that have the most physical power, is going to be Baron Davis. Baron Davis has a 4 in the stat, and it makes sense since he has a 5 in layups and dunks. You want him to be able to slash and take that contact. He was definitely one of the craziest in-game dunkers, especially for the point guard position. Now, as far as rebounding, Baron Davis is the best rebounding point guard with a 3, and so is Lonzo Ball. For playmaking, luckily, all these players have a 5, which makes it a lot easier to build out these players because you can focus on other stats. The only player that doesn't have a 5 is Michael Cooper, who has a 4. Now, defending is where it gets very unique. The only players that have a 5 in the stat are Michael Cooper, Baron Davis. So if y'all didn't tell already, Baron Davis is a gem, and Lonzo Ball. But we knew Lonzo Ball was one of the top lockdown defenders in this game. Michael Cooper, I believe, is new to the game, so it's good to see that he is a lockdown defender because that's how he was back in the days as well. The Showtime Lakers were no joke. Overall, all these point guards are pretty good. So out of these point guards, Baron Davis is craftable, which is incredible to know, and Lonzo Ball. And Baron Davis is also one of the set reward players. As far as the event rewards, Steve Nash is an event reward. Now, this team only has 4 shooting guards, but 2 of them are craftable. One is Jalen Green, and the other is Zach LaVine. Let's get into their stats. So for shoot-off dribble, most of these shooting guards have a 5. The only one that doesn't is Jalen Green. He has a 4. Layups and dunks, most of the players have a 5 except for Bradley Beal, who has a 3. For mid-range, all 4 players have a 5. Three-point shot, only 2 players have a 5, and that's Zach LaVine and Bradley Beal. Post scoring, which is also not that important for your shooting guard unless you like to shoot a lot of fadeaways. But the only players that have that stat is Isaiah Ryder and Jalen Green. For agility, they all have a 5, which is really good. They all have a 3 in strength. Your best rebound and shooting guard is going to be Zach LaVine and Isaiah Ryder. As far as playmaking, only one of these shooting guards have a 5, and that is Bradley Beal. And defending-wise, the best defenders are Isaiah Ryder and Jalen Green. Looking at these stats, you can tell that Isaiah Ryder is a gem. Isaiah Ryder is also an event reward. And as far as the set, Zach LaVine is a set player. On to the small forwards. Small forwards, we got 5 of them. Let's get into the stats. All right, so for shoot-off dribble, only 3 of the small forwards have 5. That's Rick Barry, Melo Anthony, which I'm very excited about, especially since it's a Knicks Melo, Knicks Nation all day, and Dominique Wilkins, which is a top-tier small forward. I'm actually going to tell you right now, 3 of these small forwards are top tier. Layups and dunks wise, your best slasher is Dominique Wilkins, but that shouldn't be a surprise. But the bright side is that most of the other players have a 4. Mid-range, the only players that have a 5 is Rick Barry, Carmelo Anthony, and Dominique Wilkins. Three-point shot, there's only 2 players that have a 5, Carmelo Anthony and Sadiq Bey. Post scoring, the only player with a 5 is Melo, because he's a beast in the paint. Y'all know that already. One of the best scorers inside this game, and one of the top small forwards gameplay-wise as well. Agility, the only players with a 5 is Rick Barry, Dominique Wilkins, and Kenyon Martin Jr. As far as strength, your strongest small forwards is Carmelo Anthony, Dominique Wilkins. Shouldn't be a surprise, right? The best rebounding small forwards is Rick Barry, Carmelo Anthony, Dominique Wilkins. Playmaking, only one of these small forwards have a 5, and that's Rick Barry. And defending, only one of these small forwards have a 5, and that's Dominique Wilkins. So it's clear to say Rick Barry, Dominique, and Melo are the gems for this position for sure. Now, as far as small forwards, Rick Barry is craftable, which is a W, and Sadiq Bey. As far as the set, no small forward is required for the set. As far as the small forwards, Rick Barry is an event reward for Power Cap. Carmelo Anthony is an event reward for the overtime event. This team has 4 power forwards. Let's get into them. The power forwards that we're looking at, the shoot-off dribble, the 2 power forwards that could create opportunities and get those jump shots, is Paolo Banchero and Kyle Kuzma and Jabari Smith Jr. Only power forward with a 5 in layups and dunks is Paolo Banchero. Only power forward for 5 in mid-range is Jabari Smith Jr. As far as 3-point shot, they all have a 4. Post scoring, they all have a 4. Agility, the only 2 power forwards with a 5 is Paolo Banchero and Jabari Smith Jr. Your strongest power forward is Paolo Banchero. Rebounding wise, most of them have a 4 for the exception of Herbert Jones. Playmaking, none of the power forwards have a 5 in playmaking, but majority of them have a 4 for the exception of Jabari Smith Jr. who has a 3. And the only power forward who has a 5 in defending is Herbert Jones. But it's pretty clear to see who the gems are. Paolo Banchero and Jabari Smith Jr. are that for sure. Now, the craftable ones are going to be Jabari Smith Jr. and Kyle Kuzma. And as far as the set, you need to craft Jabari Smith Jr. and you got to craft Kyle Kuzma. And then event reward wise, the players that you can get is Paolo Banchero from Power Cap, which is a good reward for sure. Now let's get into the centers. So there's 5 centers in this team. 3 of them are craftable, right? We got Daryl Dawkins, Robert Parrish, and Chet Holmgren. The one I'm most excited about, Plazma Quartz, Karl-Anthony Towns. Let's get into their stats. The best center for shoot-off dribble. This is not a stat that matters that much for your center though, but in today's game, you do have a lot of centers that could shoot threes, and it's not a surprise that the top 2 for this category are Karl-Anthony Towns and Chet Holmgren. Layups and dunks wise, all of them have a 5 for the exception of Elton Brand. Mid-range shooting, only 1 player has a 5, and that's Elton Brand, so he makes up for that lack in the layups and dunks. And that's very good for the pick and pop to have a center that can hit the mid-range. 3-point shot, only 1 center has a 5, and that is Karl-Anthony Towns, and then Chet Holmgren has a 4. The rest are not going to be used as 3-point shooters, but those are players that you're going to surround with 3-point shooters when making your team. And typically those players will be the ones you rely on most to get rebounds, right? So that's very important to understand when building out your team and picking out centers that can shoot. You better make sure you're surrounded with good rebounding players. Now for post scoring, 3 of these players have a 5. That's Karl-Anthony Towns, Robert Parrish, and Elton Brand. And I'm gonna tell you right now, Elton Brand post game is really good, and Robert Parrish as well. Agility wise, the only player with a 5 is Chet Holmgren, so that's pretty impressive. Strength, the strongest centers are going to be Daryl Dawkins. I was not surprised by that one. He was a beast. That's Chocolate Thunder right there. Look up his highlights. This guy was crazy. He used to break backboards. You got Robert Parrish with a 5 and Elton Brand. And Elton Brand was a double-double machine back in the days. All these centers have a 5 in rebounding. Playmaking-wise, the only player with a decent stat for playmaking is Chet Holmgren. He has a 4. Anthony Towns has a 3. The rest of the players have a low stat in that category. Now, some might say, why does playmaking matter for a center? The player's speed is based off a combination of agility and playmaking, right? Agility will be speed without the ball, and playmaking is speed with the ball. So those 2 combined will give you a good idea of how fast these players could be. And then defending-wise, the only 2 players with a 5 is Robert Parrish and Chet Holmgren. So looking at these stats, you can see that Chet Holmgren is definitely a gem. So don't sleep at the fact that he's a topaz. But obviously, Karl-Anthony Towns is a very, very good Plazma Quartz card. And I'm excited to announce that he's also an event reward. Karl-Anthony Towns is the event reward for the overtime for the hardcore leaderboard. I know some of y'all like, now that's tough, because it is. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. But the good news this week is that the leaderboard has been expanded. So the top, instead of the top 3,000 players, it would be the top 4,000. So it should create a little bit more of opportunity for some players to get Karl-Anthony Towns on their squad. So that's pretty good news. Big shout out to 2K for that. As far as the other centers that are rewards, Robert Parrish is a reward as well. You still can have a center to help you get 100% style bonus if you don't get Karl-Anthony Towns. Now, as far as the set reward is Karl-Anthony Towns. So if you don't get them from the overtime event, you have a chance to craft them. You just got to be able to craft the players that are there. It's a bit of a challenge, I get it, but you got 2 weeks, right, to grind the mini events and the weekly events. And if you can rank on the leaderboard, at least for one of the events, you do get some extra collectibles as well. So that's the summer theme. I hope y'all like the new format for this video. I think after experimenting with so many different type of videos over the last couple weeks, I think I finally found a format that I think is good, informative, and keeps it flowing really well, where you guys can enjoy the content and see exactly how you want to go about grinding this theme, what players you want to get, who you want to craft, and how to build out the players, right? As always, I try to add value through the content I make, and I could tell y'all enjoy it based off the comments and the support y'all showing on the video. So I ask that you please continue to do so, because it definitely makes the grind even more enjoyable. So as always, I will catch everybody in the next video. Peace out.